Good afternoon. Since few of my dear classmates were not very happy me picking India last week, probably because they think it's my comfort zone, but I love talking about India, and I have decided to keep both our interests into picture, and we'll be talking about India and China today in my presentation. My presentation for today is Comparative Analysis, Effects of Chinese and Indian Demography on their Economy. The outline is, I'll be going through demographic factors that affect the economy, how these demographic factors can be a dividend, or it could be a drag. So the four demographic factors that I would be talking about is population growth and components, age-sex structure of the population, working age and dependency ratio, and sex ratio. There are numerous more demographic factors, but these are the four that I will be talking about in my presentation today. The first one is population growth. TFR, that is total fertility rate. It's the average number of lifetime births per woman. The graph that you see has a blue line going through in between at 2 or 2.1. It is called replacement rate and is defined as women have just enough female babies to replace themselves. China's TFR has been much lower than that of India or the developed countries, which is the replacement rate blue line. So all the developed countries have pretty much between 2.0 to 2.1, which is also the replacement rate line over there in the graph. Probably the reason why I think that China's TFR is much lower is probably because of the law of having only one child per couple, which got enforced a few years ago. The second factor is age-sex structure of the population. It is represented in the pyramid graph over here. The blue represents the male, the red is the female, and this is a graph from 2010. It tells population breakdown by age and gender and extent of development. For developed countries, it was pretty similar. It was very staggered. So there is no ideal graph that I could find for age-sex structure. Third is working age and dependency ratio. The youth is defined as all the age groups that's under 15 years. Working age is 15 through 65 years. Older population is 65 plus years. Youth and older population together make the is the dependent population, and the ratio of dependent ages to that of the youth working age is considered as dependency ratio. So as we see over here in this graph, the working age population for India and for China is between 60 and 70 billion, which is really high compared to the dependent population. These dependent population is further zoomed, and you can see it over here in the second graph. And as you can see, you want the dependent ratio to be much, much lower, and that's where these countries are heading. It is going to get lower, if not high or crazy exuberantly high in 2035. These two graphs is giving a range from the facts from 2010 to 2000 through 2010, and thereafter is the projection. The fourth is the sex ratio. There is a growing ratio of males to females in China and in India. In both these countries, there is preference for sons coupled with decreasing, which has led to decreasing fertility that has contributed to higher ratio of males to females in these countries. Most parents would prefer to have sons, also probably because of the social norm or the historic cultural preferences that they have had in both of these countries. And when they decide to, like in China, when they decide to have fewer children, a lot of times they would assess the gender of the fetus, and if it's a female, they would abort it, which is not fair, but that's how it is. And as you can see in this graph, it's from 2010. It's a column graph which defines a number of males per 100 females in India, China, and in the U.S., and the age range at the bottom. So with that being said, I would like to now jump into the second major point, how demography can be a dividend for these population. Increased proportion of working class provides opportunity to reap a demographic dividend. And as you've seen in the graphs earlier, both of these countries, India and China, has a very high working population. And that's the reason why. And the two main bullets that I have listed over here, first is brute force increases in the number of potential workers, and second, accelerated accumulation of capital due to less percentage of dependent population. In India and in China in 1980s and 2000, between 1980 and 2000, agriculture was considered a major occupation. But over this period of time, industrialization has happened, a lot more industries have moved to India and provided a lot more jobs. And that has helped boost these economies, as well. The working population of both of these nations is expected to be growing in the near future, which is definitely a plus. And secondly, also the older population in both of these countries is not going to be very dependent because they're expected to do more cognitive tasks rather than the physical tasks, which as you grow older, you cannot do much of physical tasks. So then they won't be a dependent or a burden on the working age population. Demographic drag. How can this population be a drag to the economy? Both in India and China, they both need to have effective policies in key areas. These countries are yet not developed. They need to have proper policies and they need to have systemic process. These are the key areas which are dragging them at this point in time. First is they need to have strong and effective healthcare and education system. They need to have flexibility and competitiveness in labor market, openness to trade that leads to development of productive and rewarding jobs, modern infrastructure and technology, good governance, stable macroeconomics and sound financial system, reduced crime and corruption. Both of these countries have very high corruption and crime rate. Appropriate and guaranteed retirement income system, which is not very well defined in these countries. Last but not the least, degree to which the women participate in informal economy. That needs to be, it's kind of increasing. There are more females participating, but it's not come to a point where it is equal. Some of the developed countries you would see equal female to male participation in the economy, but it is still lagging in some ways, I feel. With that, I would like to end my presentation. My apologies as I wasn't able to participate in person to present this material. But thank you so much for being patient and listening to me. Have a wonderful summer. Enjoy the warm weather. I know there are a lot of golfers, so I guess the slide would be very apt for you. Thank you. Have a wonderful summer. Bye, guys.